the day after Governor Patrick and I were elected, at a press conference that was far too early in the morning, we were asked, the governor was asked a question, what do you think the biggest challenge you're going to have after you take your oath of office? He said, who knows what the future will predict. But I know one immediate challenge is going to be implementing the new healthcare reform law. And the good news is working with the business community, the legislature, healthcare providers, insurance companies, we've implemented that law. And 430,000 of our fellow residents and citizens of the state now have access to quality, affordable healthcare. And people both in the Republican presidential primary and the Democratic primary both talked about the Massachusetts plan, of which we all should be proud of as residents. And we implemented that with some tweaks and changes, and which is I think something of note. We passed in the first legislative session 10 bond bills. Now, I was at a leadership meeting about a year and a half ago, and leadership meetings take place on Mondays. The governor, myself, the Secretary of Administration and Finance, the Speaker, the Senate President, and the chairs of the House and Ways and Means Committee. And on the agenda that day, and usually the agenda is set by the Speaker putting on a few items, the Senate President, and the Governor. And that agenda that day had 5 or 6 items that were bond bills. And when I was the mayor, when a bond bill might be working its way through the legislative process, you would follow it. Because then, say, a transportation bond bill or a housing bond bill, there would be a project that would affect your city or community. So you'd follow it with interest. And on that particular day, there were 6 items on the agenda, as I said. And I said to then Speaker DeBasi, I said, you know, Mr. Speaker, I've been kind of involved in government as city councilor and as mayor. I've never seen this many bond bills work their way through the process at once. And around the table, he and a couple other more veteran members of the State House said, well, you know what? This is unprecedented. There's never been this many bond bills in one legislative session working their way through the process. Now, somebody might say, what are the bond bills? Well, it's investment in our infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure, our road, rail, and bridge. And why is that important to local officials? Well, 80% of the roads and bridges in the state are under the jurisdiction of our cities and towns. And we know that infrastructure, roads, bridges, and rail is very important to our economy. So we made a step in terms of addressing the $20 billion backlog of deferred maintenance. Housing bond bill, investing in not only public housing, but private developments to put people to work in the construction industry, but also create more of affordable pipeline of affordable housing. Environmental bond bill. We know places like Situate, Marshfield, South Shore, how important our environmental assets are to our quality of life, to our travel and tourism industry, to our economy. But we've got state parks and beaches that are falling apart, urban pools, campgrounds, and you know, that's almost a $900 million a year industry to Massachusetts. So we're investing in that. We've got almost 70 communities across the state that have no access or limited access to broadband internet access, another infrastructure piece. So working with the legislature, we passed a $40 million bond bill that leverages some strategic tax dollars with private dollars to make sure that those 70 communities have broadband internet access. Just think about that. How does a business today, of any size, how does a municipality, how do educational institutions, whether it be a grammar school or a college, how can they operate in today's world without broadband internet access? Higher ed bond bill, investing in our 29 state colleges and universities. And again, another legacy of deferred maintenance that we've inherited. Salem State, they had to close the library because it was literally falling apart. UMass Boston, a garage that was closed because it was literally falling down. Students in some of our state colleges and universities, biology majors, chemistry majors, looking to get into nursing or be researchers at life sciences and biotech companies, practicing in labs that are 30 and 40 years old. So these bond bills are investments in our future in every region of the state. And the other thing, again, it didn't get reported lead at 6 or wasn't a front page of a newspaper, but when we formulated these bond bills, we actually asked the state reps and senators, what are some of your priority projects in your district, so that we could try to incorporate those and get the feedback and build consensus on this. And you'll hear some will say, oh, they're just spending and spending. We did the bond bills in a way that we can afford. We refinanced the state's debt at a lower rate. We got the imprimatur of Wall Street bond rating agencies because we wouldn't want to spend at a rate that would negatively impact the state's bond rating. And we have a safety valve, if you will. So when revenues have declined, and as they have, we've had to scale back on some of that initial program, which is very ambitious. But the good news is we are putting shovels in the ground, moving that project, and because we went through that exercise of these bond bills and developing an inventory, I think we were also better prepared to take advantage of the federal stimulus money as well. So the idea is by investing in these various areas that I talked about, we put people into work, we invest in the long term, and I think that is worthwhile.